Mistakes were made. Don't let this happen to you. Welcome back to Victory Woodworks with Vic, and I'm Vic. And as you can see, I made a mistake, or a couple mistakes. So what exactly did happen? Well, quick inspection, that cabinet, which was cleated, French cleated into the wall there, fell off, hit my drill press stand, knocked it over onto my centipede. I think it killed the centipede. Although the centipede did break its fall, so it gave its life up for good reason. At least I think. So ultimately what happened is that cabinet broke. Looks like the low, actually, I don't even know. I've got to examine a little closer. But there's a top cleat and there's a mid cleat. I can see off of there, the bottom cleat is busted. So I can see roughly there's something wrong with the top cleat too. So if I was guessing, top cleat was given out or gave out. Bottom cleat couldn't hold the entire weight. It fell over, knocked this over onto the table that was here as my temporary work table, and kind of demolished it. So this is pretty heavy and I got to move some of the stuff around. So why don't you give me a couple minutes to kind of lift this up and out of the way. We'll do a quick examination of the drill press here to see if anything busted. It doesn't look like it, but you never know. And then what we'll do is we'll hoist that up onto the table over here, examine the cabinet, figure out why the cabinet failed. Again, these were my fault. I kind of have an idea of why, but we'll take a look at that and see what happens. So I remembered I had this off-road hand winch. It's good to about 1,000, 1,200 pounds. It's pluggable. It's got this chain, which I think, you know, what I'm going to do is just hook it up to a couple of these cables and just lift the whole drill press up, stand it back up, and put it there. Otherwise, what I got to do is kind of start taking it apart, and I don't want to do that. So I've got the other end of this winch on this I-beam. Again, this weighs more than I can lift, but it's not that heavy. So this should be reasonable to do. So I'm going to do is find myself an extension cord, plug myself in, and see what we can do here to lift this up, stand it back up out of the way so we can get to the centipede and see if we're burying the centipede or if it can still work. Just ran the cable through these rings and through this. Now what I'm going to do is stand it up, and as we get it up, we should be able to stand it. So let me just hit the button in the other direction. Let's see what happens. This is our first try. If that doesn't work, we're going to start taking it apart. Okay, we got it most of the way up. Now let's get our little centipede table out of the way here. So I can already see the centipede table took a bit of a beating. Surprisingly, the centipede looks like it survived. Some of the top parts, not so much on the table, but the rest did. This one might have broke off one of these, but I believe I got extras anyway. Let's hope that doesn't fall on us either. Now, I'll show you what's in here and why this, which was one of the reasons the cabinet fell down, in a minute. Why don't we take a look and see what happened to cause this thing to fall off in the first place. That is this. I had stacked up, I don't know if the actual terminology, but I'm thinking shit ton of nails and screws. That was the cause, or at least one of the causes. So let's just move this out of the way. We got to unload that in a minute. And then let's figure out what we can do here about getting this drill press righted up. Woo! Winner. All right. So we got it to stand up. That was sketchy as all hell. I do not recommend that whatsoever. How was so sketchy that I welcome your comments in the comment section telling me how sketchy that was. As a matter of fact, why don't you tell me the sketchiest thing you did that you knew was sketchy, but you went and did it anyway. As you can see, the table is a little crooked, but let me bring that around. I don't see that it's busted at all. Table's in one piece, top's on. I guess the, so if anything, alignment, maybe the post, but we'll have to do some additional measurements as we go forward to see what happened there. Okay, from a drill press point of view, I can see the top was a little bent, but you know what? I don't think it's going to cause any issues. I ran it the other day, it seemed fine. I didn't see any other things around here. The table needs to be realigned, but nothing broke. A couple of these things fell off. I think the Chicago electric cabinet's a little bit worse for wear, but still stable enough. You know what? It should be fine. I don't think this took any sort of damage, because primarily what happened is it landed onto the bora table. The bora table took the brunt of the impact with the ground. So from that point of view, I think we're okay. But what I will do is I will measure this out again just to make sure we've got a straight chuck in alignment with whatever in the ground here, and then we'll balance this out too. So we're plus there. So the mistakes, well, cheap cabinet, overloaded, broke. That was all on me. Our second issue here. So this here is the centipede, which took the brunt of the fall damage. The only thing I can see that happened to this thing is, if you can see on this one, the little screw thing that holds these in place sheared off. Now, as I look at it, I don't see that there's any way I can actually repair that. So I'm going to have to figure out what to do. Maybe I'll reach out to Centipede and Bora and figure out what to happen. You know what? Some of these are slightly bent, but I don't think it's going to affect the usage of this at all. So Centipede, I thought I killed it, but you know what? It didn't look like it's going to cause any kind of issues, except for this piece, which I'm going to have to see what I can do about that. Now the table, that's a whole other story. So the table, here are a few parts from the corners, and here's that broken off piece that broke off. And what happened here is, when it landed on the table, the corner on the far side that it landed on took the brunt of it, and we lost this piece. Oh, you can't see that. This happened. On the opposite, in the middle, I want to catch my fingers on that. In the middle, same thing. This is all on the far side that it impacted onto the ground with. And then on the bottom, there was another piece right there. It had an issue. So I don't think this is repairable, but I still think that this top is usable. Let's look at one of the mistakes I made with this cabinet. Well, I think the biggest culprit here was the fact that all of these are screws, nails, basically screws and nails. And if you can see, there's probably 150 to 200 pounds of these nails in here. So I do not believe this cabinet whatsoever was designed for that sort of weight, which was one mistake I made, one of mistakes I made, which caused the failure on the French cleat and on the back of the cabinet. So let's spin this thing around and see what else was the problem. So here's the French cleat. It is screwed into particle board at the top. Looks like I might have glued it also. Not 100% sure. And I can see here, it's failed. It buckled here, although that could have been from the impact of the ground. But it was cracking along here, and you can see this is what let go. Now the bottom French cleat is holding. It just chipped a little bit, so I think it's still usable, although I'm not sure what we're gonna do here. I would like to try to rebuild this cabinet just a little bit, put it back in there, because it'll match the rest as it was. But we may wind up building a completely new cabinet. But one thing we're definitely not gonna do is put 200 pounds of nails on the inside. So let me remove these without spilling as much as I can, and we'll take a closer look at the cabinet. All right, so got everything out of here. Surprising amount. I'll give you a quick peek. That's basically what was inside. I own up to that. That was completely on me, thinking this little particle board cabinet, which surprisingly held all of those, or most of those, for about 15 years, roughly about that amount. So the cabinet far exceeded what it was designed to do. So everything inside looks pretty good. No cracking here. The front took a beating, which surprisingly, this is kind of some sort of a plastic coating on top of MDF. I'm thinking I could probably just peel this off and repaint it and I can at least put the cabinet back up. A few dings here and there, but you know what? It's a garage cabinet. So this is kind of the biggest part right here. For some reason, I thought by gluing this to the top ridge here, if it's glued, I think it's glued, would be enough. You know what? It's not. I know that now, especially for that amount of weight. But what we're gonna do is, like I said, we're gonna peel the front, try to paint that. I'm thinking I can put in maybe a 1/2 inch piece of plywood, glue it onto the whole back, re-put on these cleats, and hang it back up. I think I could probably do that just to salvage the cabinet itself, because again, it matches. First step here, we got the cabinet here. You can see, a little beaten on the front. Inside looks okay. This is where we got the problem with this cleat. So what I'm gonna do first is see if I can take this cleat off, which shouldn't be that hard, unless we're glued, in which case it might be a little harder. But what's interesting is these little, I think these are the Spax screws, totally held, so they didn't break. So Spax screws 5, cabinet 0. If I did glue it, it didn't look like I did a very good job, or the glue, looks like the glue failed here, didn't fail here. So again, our plan, I think, is to just slap on a 1/2 inch piece of ply here, glue the entire length. All right, so we got this. Wind up here and here. And shoot in a couple screws just to hold it down, and then we'll start screwing it everywhere. Let's put that down here for right now. Let it dry up. That's probably the rest of it's gonna be a tomorrow project. Let's look at this door. So this door, it's got this plastic stuff. Now the question is, do I peel it off and just spray paint it, or paint it, or do I do something else? My gut's telling me to just peel this plastic off because it looks like crap. Paint it white, and who knows? I'll leave the inside. So I guess this is kind of wild. I've never seen this before like this. I had no idea that this is this kind of plastic. All right, so there. Doesn't look bad at all. Okay, next step in our process here of the cabinet is to paint the door. Okay, so we're here the next day. Paint job's complete. It's not perfect, you know what? But then again, it's a shop cabinet. I'm not worried. I just kind of really wanted it to be white to match everything else. So what we're gonna do is check out the cabinet here. This is the, let's move this on over. We'll have to do a little cleanup here before we get further, but here's the cabinet. You know what? I didn't think it would be that hard to glue on plywood, and it wasn't. Glued on, screwed in. We got a very solid back for this cabinet. Not that we're gonna put 250 pounds of nails and screws in it again, but we got this repaired also. This is the old cleat we actually had on the back here, which peeled off the back. Surprisingly, it's still in good shape. All I did was use my little plane here and just kind of smooth out the back so it would sit flush. What I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it on here again and use that as a top cleat. What I'm thinking of doing with the other cleat is just shooting some screws in right into the lower French cleat over there and be done with it. That's basically what I'm thinking I'm going to do. Since we won't be loading it up with as much weight this time, it shouldn't be an issue. But you know what? We'll see what happens here, right? So let me just kind of spread this out just a little bit. Gonna shoot that right in there. This one right here, and the third one right here. I'm gonna just hang that up on the wall, and then just screw it in. Hold on. Okay, last step, or last 2 steps, put in the shelves back where they were. Fits in nicely, like it should, obviously. And then we got the door here. We're going to pull these screws out, snap it back on, and then we should be good to go. It should be pretty easy. You know, these are very tiny screws, and I got fat fingers, so it's a little hard to push them in here. Let's see if we can do that with the Phillips a little bit better. All right, there we go. Good as new. You can barely tell the difference. I mean, you got little dings here and there in this door from falling, but you know what? That's a pretty close match if you ask me. Mistakes were made. We overloaded that particle board based cabinet with way too many screws and nails, which caused it over time to fail. Although it did take it about 15 years to fail, you know, it was unnecessary. Fault of my own was A, buying a cheap cabinet, and 2, was way overloading that cabinet for what it was designed to do. So I'll take both of those on myself. So you saw the repair, paint came out all right. I tell you, that Graco, you really got to balance out how much you're painting versus how much time it's going to take you to set up and break down. So what I really should have done is probably just use a paintbrush and a roller for that door because it's pretty small, as opposed to setting everything up for spraying it out. But you know what? I thought I'd get a better finish with the spray. I think I did, but it took me, you know, another 20 or 30 minutes afterwards to clean out the Graco gun, as opposed to brushes. I could have just, you know, lubed them up in the sink there and got all the paint off of that. So again, another lesson learned, balance out the tool setup and cleanup versus is there a simpler way of doing that? So, thanks for watching. If you learned something new, if you like what you saw, please like and subscribe to Victory Woodworks with Vic. Again, I'm Vic. See you in the next video, and stay passionate.